Hi, I'm Christy. I want to talk to you today about organizing your paperwork as you go through the transition process. As I mentioned last week, the overwhelm at the beginning of this process was really high for me. I was trying to figure out what needed to be done and who I needed to contact and what applications I needed to do, and I was just going crazy. So when I first started collecting paperwork, I didn't think too much about how I was going to organize it. I went to a meeting where I had a folder that had several organizations that I just threw everything into the folder. And so I just continued to throw everything in that folder for a while. And that worked for a little while. But then the folder started getting thick and I was having trouble finding the different pieces that I wanted and the different organizations, and it was just getting crazy. So, all right, time to get organized. So I went to our office and I found 3 different pocket folders. And so I organized things roughly by organization, but I didn't have quite enough pockets, so I had a couple that were together, and that worked okay for a while. I knew where they were, I kept them in one specific spot, but I could never remember what organization was in what color folder or which one I wanted. And it always took me at least 2, if not all 3 of the folders before I could find what I was after, and pretty soon that got frustrating too. So I decided it was time to put everything in one location. So for me, I really like the disc-bound system. And I mentioned it in the blog. You can Google it for more information. But you can find the blog version of this over at my website at www.havenofhopeforme.com. This originally posted in October of 2018. So a disc-bound system looks similar to this. It's a kind of binder. It's got the individual discs. You can punch things. You can get covers. You can get folders, dividers, all kinds of different things. And this is my preferred method. So if anything I'm going to put in a binder is going to go in a disc-bound system like this. So when I went to do this, I went and I originally had an 8-tab set of tabs. I've since gone to 2 sets of 5. And so I've done it by organization. So I've got a divider with the name of the organization. I've got a folder with little pieces of paper in it, little things like that. And then behind that, well, not in this section, but this is where I would put anything that relates to this organization and any paperwork that I'm going to keep. I punch it and stick it right in here. And then at the very back, I have a few sheet protectors for any other papers that I want or anything else that I've got. So this is actually working really well. It is kind of thick. There's a lot going on here, but it's keeping me organized. It's easy for me to grab, and I'm really happy with this system. So what I've done, like I said, anything that I'm going to keep, I punch and put in each section. If it's an application or something like that, I put it in one of the pockets so that I know that I need to return that. So here's a couple tips that I've come through as I've gone through these different systems and trying to figure out what works well. My first is this: use something that you're comfortable with. There's nothing worse than fighting the organizational system on top of all this other stuff that you're going on. So whatever works best for you, use that. If you are going to use some sort of a binder, then I would recommend a divider for each organization or area that you're going to work through. And then I would also include something to catch all the small items, the business cards, the little pamphlets and things like that, like you saw that I had in the pockets. This lets you keep all the corresponding information for the organization or for the area that you're working on all together in one section. I'd also recommend putting new information before it gets punched into the binder, either into a pocket or into something that lets you keep everything together so that, again, everything you need is in one place. As you get new papers, I also recommend trying to get them into the proper section as soon as you can. It makes it easier to find things, easier to stay organized. Another big tip would be flexible. You know, if what you're using isn't working, then, you know, don't throw your hands up in the air and say, well, it's never going to be organized. Try something different. You never know what you might find. Next week, we're moving on into some of the different specific areas that you'll need to complete. The first few are relatively easy. So next week, we're going to start specifically with getting a state ID. Now this is in place of a driver's license. It still works as proving your identity But what we found with AJ is that since he won't be getting his license, and he's an adult, people now want this proof of identity. So my question for you this week is this: what method do you use to prefer to organize your paperwork? I would love to hear different solutions, and maybe you'll give me an idea of something that might work even better. Or maybe something will work better for somebody else. You can leave me a comment below, again, or you can leave me a comment over on the blog at www.havenofhopeforme.com. I'd also appreciate it if you would share this with anybody that you think might find it helpful. I'd love to be able to help more families. If you want to make sure that you don't miss any pieces to this series, or you don't want to miss any other blogs or videos as they come out, you can sign up for my email list over on the website as well. I promise to send things that I think you'll find helpful, useful, or informational. So as I'm trying to stay organized, I am really glad that I can continue to say that life is good and there is never a dull moment.